Welcome to this episode of the Be Ready Utah PrepCast. I'm Wade Mathews, the Be Ready Utah manager here at the Utah Division of Emergency Management. Joining me again are Jona Whitesides, the Preparedness Bureau Chief, and I might add a former financial manager here, as well as our new and current financial manager, Tanner Patterson. Thank you for joining me again today.
Thanks for having us.
Happy to be here.
And this is, again, part 2 of our episode on finance and important documents. So make sure you catch these on our YouTube channel and Facebook and Twitter. So we're going to talk about finance now. And I just want to throw this question right out here, this perception, basically. After disaster, FEMA is going to come in and start handing out credit cards and cash, right? Can we just expect FEMA is going to be here to start handing out money?
No, absolutely not. So, and that's the thing. A lot of times people think, they hear disaster, they think, well, FEMA's coming, I'm going to be made whole. And typically FEMA's programs under the Stafford Act are to help with public infrastructure. So that's government-owned public property. They do have an individual assistance program, but in most cases of catastrophic events over the last 10 years, it's been very nominal, the amount of money they give to individuals, maybe a couple $1,000s.
Yeah.
So when you think about your property being completely destroyed, being displaced, maybe your place of work shutting its doors, that really is just a drop in the bucket. So you really need to think about what your own personal financial plan is.
And so correct me if I'm wrong on this, but IA is basically to make a domicile livable again. It's not to bring it to what it once was.
Correct. So to make
IA, first of all, being individual assistance that you mentioned.
And that could really be just making sure that, okay, a hurricane took out all your windows, or in Utah, an earthquake shook out all your windows. Well, to make it livable, we're just going to throw some plywood up and we're going to call it good. So that's about the help that you're going to get.
That's what that money would be for if FEMA were able to come in and give you a couple $1,000s, basically.
Yeah, maybe a couple nights in hotel while that's being done, cover some meals. But yeah, that's about really the extent you're looking at getting.
So as with all things preparedness, we ultimately are responsible for our own safety and well-being, right? So that applies to finances as well. So I guess one of the first things that we think about with emergency preparedness is our disaster supply kits, those supplies and tools and things that we need to get us through that emergency into the recovery phase and back on our feet again. We should have money in there, right? What's recommended, and what kind of money should we have in our disaster supply kits?
So a common recommendation is $200, making sure that that's in small denominations. You don't want 2 $100 bills, because if change is an issue, then
you're not getting any change.
Yeah, exactly. But one thing with pretty much everything finance related, it's going to depend on your situation. How big is your family? What are the needs of your family? Do you have any special needs? Because that can affect how much money you'll want to keep on hand. And that's a must for an emergency kit.
And we should have our own individual kits. We probably need to have cash in each of those kits, not just mother's or father's kits, right? Should be money in all the kits.
Yeah. And I would maybe add, if you kind of put it into perspective, so there may be people who buy that 20-ounce soda every day or that cup of coffee, and that's going to run you $2 or $3, right? If you can just cut that out once a day, so let's say maybe $3 you're saving a week, I mean, you're going to end up having $156 at the end of a year. Apart from anything else that you may be being able to save, like maybe a raise or some extra income that comes in. So really when you put that into perspective, okay, maybe I'm going to sacrifice one little goodie a week. I mean, it's doable. First of all, it's doable. Second of all, look at where you can be putting yourself financially in the event of a disaster, having $150 saved away. I know, you've got these value meals from any of the fast food restaurants run about $4 or $5 on some of their specials they have. If you put that away, I mean, that's $260 in a year that you could save. So it's not undoable. And today with technology, there are even apps that you can say, okay, every week I want $5 to come out of my checking and go into this savings account that I can have. Now, that doesn't take care of having your cash in your disaster supply kit, but again, it is another way of putting some money away for a rainy day.
Which is probably the next step in our preparedness then, besides the money in our disaster supply kits, is having some additional savings for the rainy day you mentioned, for the disaster. So we're just talking about money in the bank. And is there a recommendation, an amount or a time frame of how much money we should be saving?
So this, like I already mentioned with individual situations, the typical recommendation you'll see is a minimum of 1 month's expenses. Obviously, the more months you can have, the safer you'll be. That's just a big safety net that you're creating. But it's just something that everybody should be striving for to be financially prepared. And that savings account, that however you do that, is not any different than a personal crisis fund. It's disaster, it's personal crisis, you're found without a job, whatever it might be, you want to have that money to get you to the next step. So typically a 1 month's expense minimum.
And I've heard a statistic, I can't quote the source or anything exactly what the numbers are, but FEMA has mentioned recently that there's a certain percentage of the population that doesn't even have $400, that couldn't even put together $400 for a disaster situation or job loss or recession or something like that when it would be needed. So we should have at least that much, right? 400, you say 1 month, but at least, I don't know what the significance of that $400 amount is, but that's maybe the bare minimum.
Yeah, and that's
savings.
That's a good point. Something.
Right.
It's going to be a little at a time. It's going to be growing. It's going to be whatever you can put together. You just want to make sure that you have something for if the disaster comes.
And Jona, you gave some good examples of how people can do that easily. That also would apply to as far as just putting together our preparedness materials as well, saving here and there, and buying a little extra food and buying a little extra bottled water and buying some extra flashlights and batteries. And pretty soon we've got all those emergency supplies put together, saved, purchased after some savings over time.
Yeah, that's a good point because, from the planning aspect of emergency preparedness, it can sometimes feel overwhelming, and it also could be financially overwhelming to think, I got to go to the store and buy all this stuff. Well, again, just do it one step at a time. Like you said, a little bit extra water here, a little bit extra food here. Over time, you've got that build up.
Exactly. So there's another element of finance, emergency preparedness, that we want to mention, talk about is insurance. Structural home insurance, I guess, is kind of what we're talking about here. What are the different types of insurance homeowners ought to be thinking about that it's not included in their normal homeowners insurance policies?
So yeah, your typical hazard insurance that you get with your home, when you sign your mortgage and you're required to have it and these things, typically covers, that structure. Typically you'll see it will cover like a fire, and that's
water leaks.
Yeah, water leaks. We did find out in the 2012 wind event in Davis County that it also covered wind damage. But it will not cover flooding and will not cover earthquake. Those are separate riders or separate policies you would have to purchase in addition to your homeowner's insurance to make sure you're covered in the event of a flood or an earthquake, to which Utah is earthquake country, and Utah is more prone to floods than probably other disasters. We see flooding every year.
So can you just go to your insurance agent and ask for those riders or ask for those policies for flood insurance and earthquake? Will they sell the National Flood Insurance Program insurance? Is that where you get those, just from your regular agents?
So they should be able to do that. Now, they may not have a lot of experience with it, so in that case they may say, well, we don't do that, or I'm not sure how to do that. So there's a couple resources you can do. We have Kathy Holder, which is our National Flood Insurance Program Manager for the state. She's a great resource. Through her efforts in our public outreach, we have what's called floodfacts.utah.gov. And then also, if your insurance agent isn't able to do that, you can reach out to another insurance agent and talk to them about it. So there's a couple things. FEMA's got some information as well on their website, but you definitely can get a policy no matter where you live.
Okay. Cheaper than we think, probably, too, right? Depending on where you live. That flood insurance, I hear, is not all that expensive.
Correct. It could depend where you live, and like you said, you may not have had no history of flood, but you want that peace of mind to do it, and you can do it financially. Why not do it?
I think that really kind of sums up the whole reason that we want to do this financial preparedness is peace of mind, right? Knowing, because ultimately we're responsible for our own safety and well-being, and being able to take care of our needs ourselves financially and otherwise, I think will give us peace of mind for sure. Thank you very much for your expertise and information you're sharing. Anything else you want to add at the conclusion here?
No, just again, take it just a step at a time and do what you can do. And I think the key, though, is consistency. Mm-hmm. Consistency becomes habit, and then habit will help you and your family be better prepared.
Okay. Thank you both very much. Again, we've got the Division of Emergency Management website that maybe has some of this information there. And you mentioned floodfacts.utah.gov. Okay. And then, of course, our own website, BeReadyUtah.gov. We've got our important documents and some other great information there for emergency preparedness. Thanks for watching. Again, this is a two-part series. Make sure you catch them both on our Be Ready Utah YouTube channel and other social media accounts. And we'll see you next time.
Hey, hope you enjoyed this episode of the Be Ready Utah PrepCast. Like what you're seeing? Have a question about anything related to emergency preparedness? Or do you have a comment about something you've learned as you make a plan or get a kit? We'd love to hear from you. Comment or reply to us on Twitter or Facebook at Be Ready Utah with hashtag BRUPrepCast or in the comments on YouTube. We'll talk about it on one of the next episodes of the Be Ready Utah PrepCast. Don't forget to share these videos and your own adventures in preparedness with your friends, family, neighbors, and coworkers, because anytime is a good time to talk about emergency preparedness. See you next time.